What did you say about looking forward to the ASF presentation? Well,
Yes.
Dave and Scott are very good speakers, and you guys got me today, so here we go. Is there a flicker?
Oh, yeah, this is right there.
We're going to start right off the bat. Usually this is at the end, but we're going to put this at the first. I'm going to thank people that we should. Department of Natural Resources and the provincial government have been very supportive. We survive on government programs and administering them, so without the dedication and the support from the provincial government, we wouldn't be here. So I'd like to thank the government right off the bat for their great support. ACOA, a couple of years back, we had some ACOA funding to help regenerate some of the Fiona damaged lands, and we ran a little program for those folks. So I'd like to thank those, but that program is over, and but still they did support private landowners in the province with some regenerating of the Fiona damaged lands. FIT program, we have a small FIT program right now we're talking about later on, so we'd like to thank the FIT program. And woodlot owners. Without engaged woodlot owners, the private sector would be in hard shape. So, contractors, consultants, and the forest industry. I worked industry from the time I got to school right till the Fiona hurricane hit. So for 34 years I worked industry for Stora, for Northern, and for Irving. And met a lot of lads there, and Sarah tells me that if I didn't work in the forest industry, I'd have no clothes to wear and have no friends. So I'd like to thank all the forest industry people and the contractors and consultants. The reason I got hired on, I think, Dave won't tell me this, but the reason I got hired on at the ASF was because I worked with logging contractors, truckers, right from Cape Breton, clean down to the west end of the province, through Stora, Northern, and Irving, both in company-controlled contractors and also private contractors. So I bought wood, bought stumpage, and looked after all those lands. So I'm sure that's why Dave hired me, was because I knew most contractors in the province are a very high percentage of them. So without contractors and consultants in the forest industry, we wouldn't have much of an industry or much of a forest. I'd like to thank those people right off the bat and everybody else. So thank you very much. If you folks have any questions while I'm going through this, I'm just going to run down through basically what we do. So if you have any questions, feel free to put your hand up or call out, or we'll get you answered.
It's got a little delay.
How long is the delay?
It varies, unfortunately.
Yes. Our mandate. Like I said, we survive on administering government programs, technical and financial assistance for those programs. We also run some training. We're going to go through these later in the presentation. We do look after some training, and our board of directors, private landowners, owner groups, the forest industry, and the government. That's kind of who our board of directors are. Full disclosure, of all the folks that work at the ASF, Dave, Scott, Ed, Ben, and myself, I know the least about silviculture. So any silviculture questions, we'll divert them to Lori Peters in the back, or Sean, or somebody. But I mostly looked after harvesting and trucking and purchase wood, that stuff. So I am learning a lot about silviculture in the last few years, but my knowledge of this is not near what Scott's and Ed's and Dave's are. Those guys are cracker jacks. So we got some pictures of all these. Fill plant and full plant, I think this slide's been in the presentation now for 10 years. Full plant and fill plant run about 30% of our program, silviculture program. What's next there, Chris? Early competition control, plantations and natural sites, PCTs, those run about 40% of our program. Commercial things, both plantation and natural stands, selection management. I think there's one more here, maybe? Nope. And that's another 30% of our program, roughly. So that basically runs down through our silviculture program. Any questions on that? Anybody have any concerns right now about that?
Can you just say what selection management is? Like, yeah, can you just define selection management?
Sean?
It's really just doing a very light removal called partial harvest. The really goal is to promote secondary growth rather than generation. Primary goal is really beef on trees. So it's partial harvest. And there's certain technical actual for all these, or technical standards for all these. These are aligned with the ASF and the registered buyers and mills and stuff. So our programs with all those, they have the same kind of standards today. So if you go on their website, there'll be a standard of exactly what stands will qualify for each and what the resulting prescription needs to look like for all.
Thanks, buddy. We work very close with the Department of Natural Resources, so it's good working relationship, so thanks, Sean. The Fiona cleanup and challenge programs. This is kind of what I looked after, why Dave brought me on to the ASF. The top picture is the government mapping of the damaged areas in the province. The bottom picture, the tree, is part of the 14,000 hectares that we looked after with the assistance programs. That's our mapping for that. You can tell a little bit of the difference. Some of the darker yellow in the government, some of that's Crown land. You see the Riversdale area, that's pretty clear, just east of Truro. So we work solely on private land. But they overlay pretty good. So that's the areas that we, the bottom right is what we, the shape files for the areas. Do not send me any more drone pictures or pictures of blowdown. We have a fair bet. But thank you. So we had, the province had a lot of this damage, as everybody knows. Very big storm. We remember Dorian, remember Juan, but this one here, it was a cover. So we did purchase drones, and we're going to talk about those later on, but they were a game changer with this. I was buying stumpage for Stora and buying purchase wood for Stora when Juan hit. So you were laying on property lines in that over the years, and there was guys with boots on the ground this time doing the same thing, so it was a challenge. Our program looked after damage conditions, forest types, landowner expectations, which is a big one, but the biggest one was market conditions. We also could add one there with contractor capacity, because the contractor capacity had been lowered, so it was a struggle for folks like yourself, landowners, to get contractors that were available. That was a big, big problem, a big issue to get that contractor capacity. Landowner expectations, it's always interesting when you work with private landowners of just what they want for their woodlots. It is their woodlots and it's a free country, so it was, there's some interesting ideas and some real good ideas out there. So it was an interesting job.
There you go, Paul.
So we thank the provincial government right off the bat. Between the Fiona program and the Challenge program, roughly $14 million, and that equated into roughly 14,000 hectares that went through our program. Some of that program was a ton rate also, which isn't included in this, but there was some wood that moved by the ton, so. But that's roughly what it worked out to for a ballpark figure. So now what? Mechanical site prep. We did have some mechanical site prep, which was through the ACOA program. And it was not a big program, but it sure assisted. We did site assessments and site prep and some planting, but it was kind of neat. I got some pictures here coming up with some of the old gear that was drug out to do some site prep. Improved stocking, planting quality, planter production, and improved results. And if you ever walk through some of the cutovers that were post-Fiona cleanup, I would not want to be the planter that had to climb through that stuff to stick trees in the ground. So site prep was a game changer. We did get another program a year ago through the pilot program through the Nova Scotia government, and we got that started. But with the drought last year, some of it was postponed till this year, so we're going to finish it up this year. And we're hopeful there's going to be some more. A couple pictures here. Scott and Stewart's disc trencher. Scott and Stewart did some disc trenching mostly for PHP and some of their own land over the years. So this piece of gear was still in the province, and they had it going last year and some this year for us. They were the only ones with a disc trencher in the province. And they do a very good work at that. Well, that slide's coming up. The next picture has a picture of
For those
the...
of us, what does that thing do? What's the purpose of it? This picture besides making it? Yes?
Well, this picture right here shows it. That went from a cutover that was full of slash, or basically it exposes some mineral soil
Okay. This-
and makes microsites so you can actually get a tree in the ground. It's easier for the planters. You can get some trees in, and what else am I missing there?
Just wondering, does it also bury some of the woody materials?
Yeah, we're going to show another picture here of the barrels and chains. Barrels and chains tend to work better on heavy slash, like the poly fur you're going to have laying around at the tops. This will more run over top of some of that heavy slash. It doesn't get down in. This is better for ones that don't have that heavy slash. Is that right, Sean?
Yeah, the purpose is, a couple of reasons, is what Paul said is to create that microsite, we talked about the fire and stuff in the berms. It gets a little bit warmer soil, creates that microsite, builds a little bit better that way. But it's about, when Fiona came, it just devastated that land, picked up the trees, and it was just really to break down all that brush load and heavy top so we can actually get planters in and make, just like farming, you're tilling your soil and furrows. That's what this one does, and then one that you're gonna show in a minute would be,
Yeah.
really breaks up that, breaks up the top, so you can actually, some of these sites we walk through, you can even see the ground. So it's really about breaking that up and be able to get a tree right, so you make sure it's getting in that soil.
You need 85% stocking in order to pass the plantation. It needs to be 85% survival rate. And you can't get those trees in the ground because of slash loads, and your plantation is destined to fail. So it does give you the microsite. There was a little sidekick there too. It does kind of minimize so much the hylobius, the root collar weevil, by exposing that mineral soil. The weevil won't cross mineral soil, as I understand, so it does help with that. So, did I answer your question?
Thank you.
And then we have the barrel and chains. These work pretty good on the real heavy slash They just tore it up and drug it around. We had a real problem trying to find some of this gear. It used to be very well throughout the whole province, but most of it disappeared and was in people's backyards, and there was pieces laying here and there. But we had one lad, I'll tell you, it was Darcy Merriweather. They hooked onto a big old pine tree and they drug it around with an old skidder for, I don't know if it was worth the rate that we were paying, but they drug it around a lot. Time they got dragging it, it looked pretty good. But the best planting we ever had in the province was cable skidders years ago, because it would turn up some dirt and make microsites, and it was, you couldn't beat them. So they both were very effective. We also used, there's no picture up here, we also used an excavator with the root rake on it, because some of the Fiona damaged lands were very, very, very heavy to slash. Big root balls, and cost effective? No. But it was an old excavator, and the guy had the root rake in the backyard, so he resurrected it. And I'm pretty sure the excavator could vote, it was that old. But it did a great job, but nowhere near cost effective.
Another question here?
Do you guys ever consider a controlled burn for a situation like that?
Me? Nope.
Okay.
Quick answer.
We won't talk about that anymore right now, anyway.
This is fascinating. Like, how many operators did you have at this time? Operating these different excavators or even the disc trencher?
Well, there's only
one disc trencher, right?
There's only one disc trencher, and we had guys that were hauling around track change off heavy gear. They hooked it up and put a spreader bar on it and drug those around a little bit, just to get some, because there was no gear other than Scott and Stewart, there was no gear. We also used Guthrie's from New Brunswick, and they had some gear. We brought those folks in. They were in working for J.D. Irving anyway, so we managed to get a hold of those guys, and they did some work for us also. So, yeah. Did I miss anybody's question there? Does somebody here have a question? Do you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, my question is about testing before you replant, doing insect testing in spring, because I was told to wait till this year over the winter until the beginning this spring to see if there was some insect problem.
For the hylobias? Root collar weevil? Yeah. There were some studies done with the tearing up that mineral soil, because we were, since the mid-80s, waiting 2 years to plant. So there's an expert right behind you who can probably answer that better than I can, but we did do, everyone that was site prepped had a site assessment done on every job, so. Once again, I wasn't a part of it, but everyone was
In the places where you replanted after having done like a disc trench and like the drifted barrels and stuff, how did they respond after the drought last year? I don't know if you got a chance to go check them out.
I don't know. I can't answer that with any confidence, but I don't know. I do know we canceled the planting program in the province last fall. We didn't do a fall plant. But I can't answer, because of the drought, I can't answer how those trees survived. I don't know. I know they're doing right now, before it greens up, they're doing some assessments right now. Ed is out, Scott's out, Ben's out, doing that stuff, so. But I can't answer that with any confidence. Sorry. Are you in charge of this, Chris? You got one job, Chris. That's another picture of the shark fin barrels there, dragging them around. So going forward, how do we get the heavy slash, the blowdown into a regenerated forest? We had a low-grade program. This was The FIT program, which was some money left over from the Forest Infrastructure Trust, is that what it's called?
Forest Innovation.
We've been working with the government on the provincial government on a new low-grade program as much for forest fire mitigations and get that fire load off the ground. So in the meantime, there was some funding here. It's a small program, but it's underway right now, province-wide. Try to get some low grade off the ground, moved. It's assistance for landowners and contractors province-wide. So from the western end of the province right to Sydney. Try to get a return for low grade. The markets and the dollar values for low grade contractors just cannot afford to get in there and clean it up. The reduced forest fire load. After last summer, there's no doubt that is key, and the ways there's some areas that are around, probably everybody's house that's sitting right here, there's woodlots and areas around that you don't want to see catch fire. So limited funding, but hopefully with the announcement that there's going to be some more government funding, hopefully we have a program here before too long to carry on with something similar to get low grade off the ground. And this is, I look after this stuff, so.
Question? So that's a selective cutting?
That can be a clear cut, it can be selective, it can be a commercial thinning, but it's basically to move low grade. Priority is given to blow down areas or hemlock damaged areas, or now, okay, red would be budworm areas, or fire. We have, some of this went to the fire in West Dalhousie, some of those lands. So the priority is given to low grade that has been a natural disaster. As contractors just cannot afford to clean it up without some support. And the provincial government today is very supportive of the industry and recognizes the need to get the fire load off the ground and get these blocks back into production.
What size of lots are you looking at?
Anything more than 4 hectares, 10 acres. Same numbers we use through Fiona programs. My young fellow has a lot that's 5 acres. That goes over good at home. And it blew down, 100%. Scott Maston came on a year ago, basically last Christmas. Worked with Scott over the years. Very, very versed in auditing and monitoring programs. With the amount of dollar value that the ASF is administering these days, Scott was picked up, and he basically champions our auditing program. He's not always pleased with me because my paperwork is not always the best. But our auditing program, there's a couple, 3 slides on it. We're going to try to get out to 100% of the jobs. We won't make it to 100, but that is our objective. That's silviculture jobs, cleanup jobs. We are trying to get out there and get on the ground. A lot of times, pre and post. And the great thing about having a list of our names here shortly, Ed and Dave and Scott and I and young Ben. Scott and I and Dave and Ed are all over 60. We've all worked in the industry now for 40 or 45 years each, maybe 50. And Ben's 30 years old, so he's kind of a young fellow, but there's not many parcels of land in the province or contractors, silviculture, harvesting, whatever, that we haven't worked with one time or other. So we try to get out there in the ground and see those lads and see the land before that happens. So we're pushing for 100%. Silviculture criteria is on our website. We basically follow the government standards. That's what's there. Approvals are required in most cases, and I say in most cases because relate back to the Fiona, the low grade. Generally, we've driven by or saw those lots, and one thing about being old is, you know which lots where, so I'm not going to drive out and see, your lot. If I've been by it 3 times or 4 times or 13 times, and you know it's blown over, you know what it needs, because, but we try to get out to most of them. So send in a funding request, and we'll have a look at her. Our auditing, we do have drones, which was a game changer with Fiona and the cleanup. It can't beat getting out and going for a walk, but with the drone, it does let you know the areas where you definitely should go and have a look, and other areas that maybe not be that priority, because you can pop them up on a good day and cover a lot of ground. And we all have a drone in the truck to put up and have a little peek, so. So our monthly program, you put an application in, we'll have a look at it. You get the job done, send the claim in, we have another look at it, and we'll get you paid. We do some training. We do look after the, some training for the province, the PTA, which consists of forest ecosystem classification, the SGM, and the biodiversity. Dave and Scott and Ben mostly look after this program with some other experts from the province. The Provincial Scaling School. Oh, by the way, Sean is also our provincial scaling supervisor. The scaling school, I'll look after that, only because I'm old and I scale a lot of wood, so I looked after that. With so the ASF staff and external experts, such as the biodiversity, we're going to touch on that here shortly, but Mark Polster is the guy that looks after that, and there's a lot of knowledge. You look around this room, there's a lot of knowledge in this room, but you got a favor and support with those. So we both do the training and the refresher courses. So if you're going to do the scaling course, you're going to see me.
All communion, anyone.
Sure.
You won.
Biodiversity, like I said, I'm no biologist or, I have actually not taken this full course yet, but Mark Polster teaches it. A little bit of history, I was a cub leader and scout leader with Mark when I first went to Stora back in the late 80s, so Mark's an interesting guy. If you get a chance to go on this, you will learn something. There's no doubt about it. Interesting guy. So there's cavity trees, I'll wrap this up for Donnie. Snag trees, all offer nesting and feeding sites. And of course, we agree. What's next there, Chris? Keep her going here. Vernal pools and dams are coming up here, hot spots for biodiversity. A dry vernal pool. If you do get a chance to take this biodiversity course, it's very interesting. Beaver dams, definitely hot spots for this biodiversity. I think that's it, isn't it, Chris? 3 more. Don't stick your head in the dam in the middle of winter. I have done that. Looked in the dam, the bear looked back at it. So. Consult the forest professional. So any questions, give a forest professional a call. We spend a fair bit of time on woodlots talking to people. So. Anyway, that's it, I believe. Thank you very much.